Because the gang at Founding Fathers computer is working and it doesn't freeze. Jason's computer that's freezing, or whatever whose computer that is.
Okay.
I'm using the Wi-Fi.
Eric, do you want to introduce me? You for the intro.
Please. Introduce me.
Yes.
Good time.
Technical difficulties. So we have our speech number 9 with Jessica Stickle. Her speech is called Learning to Walk in the Light. Go ahead, Jessica. Thank you.
Did you have the intro part, the details? No.
Drugs is bad, people.
Did not have intro parts.
Okay. So I'll just give that, and then you can start my time. So not yet.
I thought Rob said the intro parts.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah. But it's basically what we focus on and forgive is what we get to live, is the intro for learning to walk in the light. Okay, now I will officially start. All right. It was an early morning. I could smell the waft of fresh cut grass coming through the window. The light was coming up, and I was awaiting my aunt to come by as she normally would after work. I found myself really wondering, man, why did my parents have me? I mean, really. They were not, as it appeared to me, equipped to have a child, nor did they really show a lot of interest in having the one that they had. Like, middle school wasn't hard enough to navigate. Now I found myself walking on eggshells, awaiting the next 3-day vacancy and binge that became like clockwork for my mother. My aunt arrived and relief filled my body, only to realize that my mother was still awake and roaring. As I climbed out of the bedroom window to escape the confinement of her addiction and abusive state, I turned back in horror to see that she had decided to throw all of my clothes out the window after me, yelling profusely, "Never come back!" And to my dismay, my aunt wasn't the only one in the audience that day. Unfortunately, at this point, school was going to begin in about 10 minutes, and so all the kids were walking along the path in front of my house because I lived on a corner street. And so they were there to see the show as well. I wish I could say that this was the last show, but for anybody that has lived with an alcoholic or knows an alcoholic, there was and will always be an encore act. This continued for the next 4 years until I could convince the courts to let me move in with my aunt because I was now able to drive myself to school. The bittersweet part of all this, man, if you met my mom, she was beautiful. She was radiant. She had so much joy and generosity in her heart. But I, nor her heart, could ever compete with the bottle, the drugs, the pills, the party. They were all too powerful. And they always won. For a very long time, I resented my mother and her choices, and I could never understand why wasn't I enough. I too became a victim of alcoholism. Life felt dark and confusing, and so many whys. Why couldn't I have a mom who loved me? Why couldn't I have somebody to rely on? Why didn't she see me? Why was I a burden instead of a blessing? The tighter I tried to hold on to her, the farther we became. How was I to honor my mother when I felt like she never honored me or my needs? As I began to fully open my eyes, my whys slowly turned into wisdom and what ifs. What if I were to live my life relying on the Lord instead of my parents? What I would learn was that I was capable and called to do many things with her. I was called not to forgive 7 times, but 7 times, 70 times. I was called to bless those who persecute me and live peaceably with all people. I was called to praise the Lord for his goodness that was there and for his wonderful works, for he protects the children. But what good could I praise for a woman who embarrassed me at my wedding, who yelled profanities at my baby shower, who chose to get high on Christmas instead of seeing her grandchild and let him reveal to her that he was going to be a big brother? How can I forgive her for insisting that I trust her to come to these once-in-a-lifetime events, only to realize she was never the one that showed up? Blessing her and forgiving her only made me feel a fool, and so very sad, with a limited, fleeting moment that her true essence ever really was there. I was so mad. Gosh, I was mad at her. I was mad at myself. I was mad at life. I was mad at God for not healing her, for protecting me. But as my faith grew, so did my understanding. The darkness turned into light and clarity came through. What if she didn't have to change in order for my needs to be met? What if forgiveness didn't mean I was weak, but in fact I was strong? What if I could accept her just as she was? What if her actions didn't actually communicate a lack of love for me, but a lack of love for herself? What if I actually chose my parents? They didn't choose me. Well, if this was all possible, then this woman who I shed so many tears over could actually be my greatest teacher and was really in my life to challenge me to grow into the person that I could become. Through her, I would learn how to have a mind and heart of compassion, to not render evil for evil, but rather to show love, for God will work it all out. And if I have the courage to trust him, I will inherit many blessings, because he satisfies the soul. He fills my hunger with goodness. And hungry I was. I wanted to feel peace. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to finally feel that I was enough. You know what? The more present I became in seeing the Lord's light in my own life, the less I focused on what I thought needed to happen in my mother's. I focused on what I could control instead of how I thought she needed to show up. I detached with love. I let go and let God. I focused on figuring out what kind of mother I wanted to be. How did I want to show up? I felt the Spirit of God upon me. He not only saw me, but he equipped me. When I am full in him, I can see her through a lens of love instead of labels. I can see her as a human who is hurting instead of a mother who isn't providing. I can feel her anxiousness and invite her to smaller, shorter events instead of expecting her to show up as somebody she's not for the bigger ones. It was through letting go and letting God that allowed us both to put our cards on the table and see that we were finally both showing hearts. I finally fell upon a relationship with my mother that no longer left me lacking anything, and instead seeing each time as an opportunity to give love instead of long for it. When I learned what to focus on and felt the power of true forgiveness, that is when I really began to live. My mom is now with the Lord, and I am grateful to be filled with peace, knowing that what we had was enough. How might walking in the light change your journey as a student? Thank you.